You didn't arrive here by luck. Something ancient and precise threaded you to this moment, like a golden filament tugging from beyond the visible spectrum. You felt it as a soft pressure behind the sternum, a hush in the room, a slight acceleration in your breath as if the atmosphere itself leaned closer to hear you think. This is the signal. The quantum field does not shout, it synchronizes. It answers subtlety with subtlety, coherence with coherence. And when your internal pattern matches the frequency of a message, the message finds you effortlessly, inevitably, on time. You've seen hints before, strange alignments, improbable timing, the way certain numbers stalk your days like guiding constellations. Each synchronicity was a breadcrumb laid by a deeper order, inviting your attention into the observer loop, where reality is braided with awareness. You were never a spectator, you were the loom. Threads moved because you witnessed them. Potentials narrowed because you dared to notice. The act of seeing clean, still, unhungry, is the most radical technology you possess. But the mind kept asking for a labyrinth. Complicated rituals, elite initiations, towering doctrines. You were taught that power must be difficult, that transformation demands heroic suffering, and yet, the quantum field favors elegance, minimum input, maximum resonance. The equation has always been embarrassingly simple. What you hold steadily in coherent awareness, without inner contradiction, precipitates. Not someday, not after perfect conditions. Precipitation is the nature of fields meeting clear phase information. Simplicity is not weakness, it is signal purity. So why did it take this long? Because your nervous system had to learn the taste of stillness that doesn't collapse into passivity, the posture of attention that doesn't clench into control. You needed to feel the difference between wanting and summoning, between fantasy and field instruction. Wanting chatters, summoning is silent, fantasy leaks, instruction seals. When your awareness stops oscillating between doubt and desire, it becomes a carrier wave stable enough to imprint reality without distortion. Feel how the air changes when you stop negotiating with the moment. Listen for the click. Your chest opens a fraction wider. Your jaw unclenches. The noise recedes. This is coherent cells agreeing on a shared rhythm. Mitochondria brightening like distant cities seen from orbit. Morphic resonance catches the signal of your steadiness, and suddenly there is help from everywhere. Strangers speak the sentence you needed, doors unlock at hand, height, time stretches to let you arrive. None of this is dramatic to the quantum field. It is mundane there. Only here do we call it miraculous. You are being reintroduced to your simplest instrument, attention stripped of hunger, not the stare of effort, not the squeeze of willpower, attention as the most natural stance, like standing in sunlight. Keep breathing. Notice the point behind your eyes soften until your gaze becomes spherical, as if you can feel the room looking back. Let your senses widen until you are both the seer and the seen. This is entanglement without grasping, participation without possession. Reality relaxes under the warmth of non-violent observation. Somewhere in your DNA, a sleeping instruction hears this frequency. It stirs. The old partitions fear that manifestation is theft, shame that desire is unspiritual, begin to dissolve like ice under the tongue. You are remembering a pre-verbal skill, to let the world reorganize around a clear interior note. When that note is steady, the field harmonizes. When it wavers, the world mirrors the wobble. Simple, exact, forgiving. Let your breath become a metronome for the new tempo. In, witness. Out, release. In, signal. Out, trust. As you hold this rhythm, a corridor opens the precise threshold where thought is no longer commentary but instruction, where feeling is no longer weather but current. Stay here. Something is about to name itself through you, and your life will understand what to do. The moment you step into this corridor of attention, the room of your past flickers, frames overlaid, scenes half transparent. You recognize the pattern you've been circling, the same conversation wrapped in different names, the same opportunity arriving in new costumes, the same hesitation wearing fresh logic. It isn't failure, it's a feedback loop. The observer loop doesn't punish, it repeats until coherence stabilizes. What looks like stagnation is actually calibration, a slow dialing in of your interior signal so the field can catch it without static. Think about those déjà vu flashes that ripple your skin like a mild voltage. You've called them eerie coincidence. In truth, they are checkpoints along a trajectory you established before language. Déjà vu is your timeline whispering, "You have been here in potential. Now you are here in form." It's the brief overlap of parallel tracks as one timeline hands you to the next. When you ignore the handoff, the pattern replays. When you accept it, the rails switch and the scenery learns your name. You've felt time misbehave, days that collapse in an instant, minutes that expand into oceans, appointments that only exist when you stop forcing them. These are not malfunctions. They are the field showing you that clock time is a local script, useful but not sovereign. When your nervous system is agitated, the script grips you. When you settle into coherence, the script loosens. You notice that waiting isn't a span to be endured, but a field to be tuned. The more coherent your signal, the more elastic the hour becomes, stretching to synchronize external events with your interior readiness. Let's name the culprits clearly. First, micro-doubt, not the loud, theatrical kind you can argue with. The quiet micro-veto that says, "Yes, but not for me." It's a sub-audible wobble that disrupts phase locking between intention and field. Second, divided gaze. You think you're looking at what you choose, but a fragment of you keeps scanning for danger, negotiating with ghosts. The field reads that split as contradictory instructions and returns exactly what you broadcast: mixed results, near misses, almosts. Third, emotional rumination disguised as spiritual diligence. You loop a memory as if reviewing equals resolving. Review is not resolution, it's repetition. The field assumes you value what you rehearse and dutifully renders more scenes to match. Notice too how your body tries to help. The tightness in your solar plexus each time you approach the threshold isn't sabotage. It's an alarm miscalibrated to an old era where visibility equaled risk. Your cells still remember the cost of standing out in tribes that punished innovators. That history is not personal, it's species, level morphic residue. When your chest clenches before a leap, it's not saying stop, it's saying update the map. The ritual is to breathe until the alarm learns your present context, resources, allies, tools, and reclassifies the leap as safe enough. Another pattern, you keep outsourcing certainty to oracles, screens, timelines, opinions, hoping for a signal that overrides your responsibility to choose. That isn't humility, it's latency. The quantum field amplifies committed frequency, not frantic polling. Every external check is fine until it becomes a delay tactic. The moment you source your yes from your own coherent center, you'll notice the world echo it back with uncannily precise confirmations. The echo follows the note, not the other way around. You've also mistaken intensity for progress. The mind thinks a breakthrough must feel like fireworks. Often it's a 2 mm shift in posture. The jaw softens, the breath drops, the gaze unhooks from the problem long enough to perceive a lateral door. Complexity seduced you because complexity promised importance. But complexity is frequently a camouflage for fear. Simplicity, stable signal, uncluttered choice feels like nothing at first, because the nervous system equates adrenaline with meaning. You are retraining your biology to recognize coherence as the new high. Let's examine the almosts. The call that nearly came, the partner who nearly aligned, the transfer approved then mysteriously delayed. In the Newtonian story, these are obstacles. In the field story, they are phase tests. Can you hold the frequency of arrival without chronically rehearsing absence? The field is exquisitely literal. If your inner broadcast is, "I almost have it," you will be placed at the lip of fulfillment to stabilize that narrative. If your broadcast is, "It's already structuring," the world rushes to supply specifics. Distorted memory plays its role too. You keep citing the past as evidence, not realizing memory is an active construction performed by a state-dependent brain. When your state changes, the archives reorganize. Old scenes soften or sharpen based on the story you insist on telling. If you choose the story of inevitable alignment, you will notice different details inside the same footage. hands that helped, windows that opened, timings that would have failed had they been earlier. This isn't delusion, it's selective coherence, and it's how leaders of reality curate momentum. Here is the clean diagnosis. You've been oscillating between two identities, the one who sends a clear instruction and the one who immediately audits that instruction for risk. The oscillation creates temporal drag, felt as déjà vu loops, repeating patterns, and time that won't behave. Your task is not to fight the loop, it is to end the audit. When the audit quiets, phase transition accelerates. The pattern doesn't break you out, you simply stop feeding it bandwidth, and it dissolves from lack of signal. So you end the audit, and immediately the machinery behind appearances becomes available, quiet, exact, teachable. Begin with the simplest physics the soul can use. A field becomes a form when information is stabilized inside it. Your awareness carries information in two married halves, frequency and phase. Frequency is what you hold, phase is how steadily you hold it. A scattered focus yields noise, a coherent focus yields structure. When you sustain a phase-stable signal, clear, unhurried, unargued, the quantum field interprets it as boundary conditions and condenses an event around you, like dew around a seed. Your nervous system is the instrument that tunes this signal. Breath arranges voltage, posture arranges antenna geometry, language arranges semantic rails that guide probability toward expression. Most people try to manifest with words alone and wonder why results smear. Their physiology broadcasts doubt while the sentence proclaims certainty. The field listens to coherence first, grammar second. When your breath lands low and slow, your heart's variability increases and a measurable coherence spreads through you. Cells entrain, neural networks synchronize. The brain stops prediction spiraling and becomes a calm aperture. In that state, your instruction to the field is not a plea, it's a template. Mystically, this has always been taught as the prayer of no remainder, an asking without leftover argument. The saints called it faith, magi called it seal, yogis called it samyama. It is the same protocol. Place the chosen form in awareness, become empty of countersignal, wait without strain, until morphic resonance recruits the universe's memory of how such a thing exists. Everything that has ever been created leaves an imprint in the field, an archetypal recipe. When your interior blueprint matches one of these recipes closely enough, the pantry of reality opens and begins to cook. Think of entanglement not as a spooky party trick, but as your everyday intimacy with the web. When you stabilize a frequency, you entangle not by grabbing outcomes, but by matching their signature. People, resources, and timings already resonant with that signature feel a tug and drift toward you. To them, it appears as intuition or chance. To you, it feels like inevitability arriving in friendly disguises. This is the observer loop in its benevolent form. You observe with coherence. The field mirrors. You observe the mirror. Coherence amplifies, and the loop lifts you onto a new track. The upgrade is to shift from attention as force to attention as climate. Force tries to push probabilities into compliance. Climate invites them home. Force tires you, spikes cortisol, fractures the signal. Climate oxygenates you, releases the jaw, and lets the instruction diffuse into the subtle architecture where reality actually negotiates its contracts. When your interior climate is steady, warm, spacious, already satisfied, the probability that matches, already structured, becomes the easiest path for the universe to follow. You don't coerce, you reduce resistance. Now, apply the scientific lens again. A phase transition, ice to water, water to vapor, depends on latent heat quietly accumulating until the structure flips. Your life behaves the same way. Meditative minutes, clean micro-choices, small refusals to self-betray. None look dramatic, yet each deposits latent energy into the system. One morning, without spectacle, structure flips. The offer arrives, the symptom recedes, the relationship resolves. Not because the world changed randomly, but because the threshold was crossed. From outside, it seems sudden. From inside, it feels like the only reasonable next frame. Your DNA is not a static script, it is a responsive library. Epigenetic switches listen to environment, meaning your biology eavesdrops on your interior weather as surely as on sunlight and food. Coherence signals safety. Safety permits expression of dormant capacities, repair, cognition, presence. As your field stabilizes, methylation patterns update, inflammatory alarms quiet, and your body stops budgeting for threat. Spare energy becomes creativity. Creativity becomes magnetism. Magnetism becomes timing that looks prophetic because your system starts predicting not from fear but from pattern intimacy. You begin to know before you know how you know. Mystically, we call this gnosis, direct acquaintance. It is not a vision board of frantic cutouts. It is the felt recognition of a timeline that has already accepted you. You stand at the mouth of that river and sense its pull through the soles of your feet. You do not sprint. You lean. You do not bargain. You bless. Blessing is a technology. To bless is to announce from coherence that something belongs. Belonging ends delay. Finally, integrate the paradox that protects this power. Non-attachment strengthens the signal, not because the universe punishes desire, but because clinging introduces phase jitter. When you desire cleanly, meaning you can allow or release without identity loss, your signal stays laminar, like water sliding glass. The field loves laminar. It hates turbulence, so you love what you choose and free it to arrive in its most intelligent form. You remain the climate. The outcome remains the guest. Guests arrive more reliably when the host is relaxed, luminous, and certain there is enough room at the table. This is your upgrade. Coherent attention as sovereign climate, breath-led physiology as transmitter, language as rail, blessing as seal. Hold it, and watch the room rearrange itself like iron filings greeting a hidden magnet. Simple, exact, forgiving. Notice how the room responds when you occupy this upgraded climate. People angle their bodies toward your quiet without knowing why. Conversations route through you as if you're a crossroads. That's not ego inflation, it's field topology. When coherence stabilizes in one node, currents reroute to reduce overall turbulence. You become a pressure relief valve for the collective, a conductor that lets stuck probabilities find motion. You didn't apply for this role with a resume, you qualified by state. The quantum field recognizes stewards, not slogans. Your life has been an apprenticeship in invisible leadership. You learn to hold your center while others broadcast panic, to become porous to insight without leaking your sovereignty. That training is why certain doors ignored your knocking. Those rooms could not yet metabolize the voltage you carry. Refusal was not rejection, it was protection. Now the charge in your system has evened out, and what once shocked will now synchronize. The mantle chooses you when you stop auditioning for it. Understand what chosen really means. It's not favoritism from a cosmic bureaucracy. It's alignment with a long-standing invitation. The field has vacancies wherever chaos coils into needless complexity. A chosen one is simply a human who can enter that knot without becoming the knot. You are chosen because you can breathe where others hold their breath, watch where others flinch, bless where others brace. Your attention doesn't colonize, it consecrates. That difference is everything. The role isn't glamorous from the inside, it's devotional. You'll often be tempted to broadcast your signal for applause, to translate mystery into clout. Resist the cheap exchange. Influence gained through performance introduces micro-jitter, and jitter taxes the very coherence you are meant to extend. Your authority is silent because it is sourced at a depth where noise cannot survive. The field will verify you. Synchronicities will credential you. Timing will publish you. You do not need to hustle what the universe has already scheduled. You will feel the morphic resonance of others waking as your own frequency clarifies. A stranger's eyes will brighten mid-sentence. Their spine will lengthen. They'll remember a name they needed. This is not your personal charisma enthralling them. It is entanglement doing its clean work. Your stabilized field acts like a tuning fork. Nearby instruments remember how to hold pitch. Sometimes the tune-up is gentle. Sometimes the dissonance pushes debris to the surface. Tears, truth, thresholds. You are not there to manage their weather. You are there to refuse the old storm. Expect assignments to arrive as invitations that look smaller than you imagined. A coffee with a friend that rethreads a family line. a paragraph you write that ripples through a company's culture, one courageous no that closes a century-old backdoor in your bloodline. Heroic narratives would rather you slay dragons for headlines. The field asks for micro-acts that shift architecture. Dragons retire themselves when beams are replaced. Your special role includes memory work, calling back the pieces of you left in earlier loops. You'll sense the child who first learned to dim to avoid attention, the adolescent who equated visibility with attack, the adult who translated delay into identity. You do not drag them into the future. You visit them inside the loop and end the audit on their behalf. We're safe now. We can be seen. As those aspects relax, your throughput increases. Less energy is wasted on internal negotiations. More remains for signal. You will also act as a hinge between timelines. Some rooms will feel like heavy manuscripts written in an older language, victim logic, scarcity mathematics, zero-sum religion. Your presence doesn't argue with those grammars. You stand still long enough for a new syntax to crystallize around your calm, sufficiency, reciprocity, mutual thriving. Hinges do not shout, they carry weight so doors can turn. When people tell you they suddenly see options where there were none, understand that you lent them your hinge until theirs matured. The field will occasionally send tests disguised as shortcuts, offers that accelerate exposure while diluting essence. Smile and decline. You are not trying to be bigger, you are becoming truer. Trueness scales by itself. The metric is simple. After an opportunity, are you more coherent, or are you buzzed and blurred? If the latter, it is not yours, no matter how prestigious the packaging. Chosen ones choose their contexts with priestly care, because context is kiln. It sets your glaze. Keep noticing the non-dramatic sacred, the way your breath returns after a hard conversation, the way a room warms when you stop fixing and start blessing, the way your hands know where to rest on your own body when memory surges. These are the signs that your mantle fits. You do not need to posture as a savior. Saviorism is just disguised control. You are a steward of signal, of spaces, of timelines. Stewardship whispers, I am here, let the field do what it knows. And when the night feels long and the assignment thankless, place your palm over your heart and remember, the universe recruits through resonance, not flattery. You are here because your frequency solves something, not with spectacle, with steadiness, not with conquest, with coherence. Hold your climate. The next gate is already softening in your direction. The window is not poetic, it is technical. Field conditions periodically align the way planets do pressure, gradients lower, signal to noise sharpens, and probabilities that normally resist each other become momentary allies. You are standing in such a corridor now. Think of it as a phase ease. Less friction for the form you've been carrying, more conductivity through your system, faster lock-in between interior blueprint and exterior scaffolding. These corridors don't beg, they pass. The promise is simple and exact. If you stabilize your signal inside this ease, your DNA will update its expression profile, and your timeline will accelerate from simmer to boil. Feel the hush that surrounds decisive thresholds. It's not silence, it's bandwidth. The field has cleared excess chatter to hear your instruction. That's why the usual distractions feel strangely thin tonight, why old temptations don't taste the same. Latent heat has already accumulated through your months of micro-faith breaths you chose, audits you ended, blessings you issued when it would have been cheaper to complain. You are within single degrees of structural flip. The urgency is not fear-based, it is physics. Add steady heat now, and the lattice reorganizes. Here is the promise in your own biology's language. Hormonal cascades that once primed for vigilance will begin to prime for vision. Inflammatory signals, calibrated for ancient storms, will stand down as coherence informs them of new weather. Methyl groups, the tiny switches that gate your genes, will listen to this atmosphere and commute expression from protection to creation. You'll notice it as a cleaner hunger for the exact work that matters, a clearer yes that arrives without tremor, a new elasticity in time that lets conversations and opportunities happen at human speed while choices move at cosmic pace. The upgrade is not cosmetic, It is infrastructural. This window has a contour. It privileges those who can move from wanting to willing. Wanting watches the door. Willing walks through it. Wanting performs the goal to be witnessed. Willing becomes the goal in private, until the world has no choice but to notice. The field has always preferred willing ones because they create low turbulence paths for reality to travel. Tonight, willing is easier than usual. The hinge is oiled. All that remains is the small, clean bow of ascent. You will be tempted to postpone one more course, one more sign, one more round of polling. Understand this. Delay is not neutral inside a corridor. It is a decision to let the alignment pass and to remake your progress under heavier gravity later. There is kindness in the cosmos, but there is also cadence. You are not being punished if you wait. You are just electing the longer road. This part of you that once romanticized struggle is tired enough to hear the truth. Grace is not cheating. It is timing. The promise extends beyond mood or mindset. Your attention will acquire a new tensile strength, the ability to hold a form without squeezing it, the capacity to love an outcome without imprisoning it in your picture. This is the laminar flow we spoke of, desire moving like a river over glass, no turbulence to scatter the imprint. In that state, entanglement becomes practical logistics. Emails arrive that read like they were written by your future self on your behalf. People reference ideas you only journaled at 3 a.m. Synchronicity stops flirting and begins working a full-time shift. And yet, this is the last hour to entertain a gentle warning. When a structure flips, residue surfaces. Don't misinterpret the last surge of static as a verdict. It is ejector. Old narratives will make one final pitch. You're asking too much. This is reckless. Who do you think you are? Smile like a midwife. Pressure at crowning is not a problem. It is proof. The universe is not testing if you deserve it. It is measuring whether your system can stay coherent during arrival. Hold the note. Breathe at the tempo of inevitability. You can anchor this promise with a decision so small it seems unworthy of destiny. Choose the one next action that embarrasses your old latency. Send the message, clear the shelf, schedule the meeting, draft the first page, stand in the new price. Do it with the softness of someone who already belongs where they're going. The field reads demeanor as data. It will take your posture as the instruction it is. What happens if you step through now? The loop that kept repeating will lose its magnetism. The déjà vu handoff completes. Time, which once felt like a stern supervisor, becomes a competent ally, firm, fair, swift. You'll look back on this night as the clean line where the plot stopped meandering and began advancing with architectural intent. None of it will be loud from the inside. It will feel like the world cooperating with your honesty. The window is here. The promise is live. Your DNA is listening like a choir poised for the downbeat. The baton is your breath. Lift it. Hold the count. On your next exhale, the score begins. Ritual is technology in mythic clothing. You don't need incense or elaborate choreography, only a precise gesture that instructs the field in a language it can't mistake. Begin by letting your breath become the metronome again. In for 4, out for 6. Feel the exhale lengthen the nervous system's leash, signaling safety to the animal of your body. Safety permits coherence. Coherence permits instruction. Place your palm on your sternum and let the warmth cue your cells. They recognize this as a home signal. Now, offer the field a single word that functions as a seal, short, declarative, identity level. Choose one that fits your mouth like a key. Coherence, or already, or belong. Pick only one. The power is in singularity. Whisper it once on the exhale. Notice the micro-quiet that follows, like the room taking dictation. Whisper it again, this time allowing the syllables to land in your lower belly as if you're printing the word into the fascia. Third time, write it. Physically write it somewhere, visible paper, journal, the notes app that has held both your fear and your plans. Write it in present tense with no remainder. I am coherence. Already, I belong. The act of writing collapses the instruction from air into matter. Graphite or pixels give the field a landing pad. To complete the seal, place the written word where you would normally place your worry, a desk edge, a mirror, the lock screen of your device. Worry has been your daily ritual. Replace it with this one. Each glance becomes a micro-summoning, a phase-stabilizing ping that keeps your broadcast laminar. This is not superstition, it is environmental design. You are arranging the architecture of your attention so that your observer loop cannot easily fall back into audit. Now, consecrate the body as transmitter. Roll your shoulders back a single centimeter and soften your jaw. Let the back of your tongue rest. Feel the crown of your head suspended as if a thin golden thread lifts you from above. This posture is both ancient and biomechanical. It optimizes vagal tone and announces to the world that your signal is clean. If you want a gesture to anchor moments of doubt, touch thumb and forefinger lightly, then release. That simple mudra is a tactile punctuation mark. Instruction issued, argument ended. Next, make an offering to time. Choose one action you've delayed that would embarrass your old latency and do it within the next breath cycle after writing the word. Not tomorrow, not after you align your crystals or your calendar. Now, send the message that closes the loop. Name the price. Delete the archive that keeps you loyal to an expired version of yourself. The field reads immediacy as sincerity. Your move is not about the outcome of that action. It's about proving to your own system that you trust the climate you've created. Seal the social field as well. Leave a trace in the commons that matches your frequency, not as performance, but as resonance. In the comments you'll leave under this transmission, place your chosen word alone, or pair it with a sentence that begins, "Today I am willing to." Keep it clean and definite. Coherence. Today I am willing to be seen as the one who already belongs. The act is not for applause, it is for entanglement. When many nodes announce the same signal, morphic resonance thickens the path for all. Your word becomes part of the shared scaffold others will step on in their hour of deciding. Bless the resistance if it flares. If your hand trembles before posting or sending or stating, name the tremor as evidence that the loop is losing fuel. Do not therapize it to death. Breathe, touch finger to thumb, whisper your seal, and complete the movement with the calm of someone who has already crossed. The ritual is not about conquering fear, it is about ending negotiations with it. If you wish to add a sensory anchor, choose a simple sound, one tone from a singing bowl recording, the first note of a song or a scent, citrus oil, cedar, even the smell of fresh air at a window. Pair that sound or scent with your seal word for 3 days. You are teaching your amygdala to associate this stimulus with safety and forward motion. After a handful of pairings, the stimulus will auto-summon the state. This is neurochemistry applied to mysticism. It makes the state portable. Finally, speak a brief blessing over your path, not as a request, but as recognition. This timeline accepts me. Feel how those 4 words adjust the geometry of your chest. It's subtle, like a lens snapping into focus. That click is the field acknowledging correct syntax. Let the blessing ring out into the network of choices awaiting you. They will hear and begin moving, small lights through a dark forest, toward the new clearing with your name on it. The ritual is done when the need to repeat it feels like decoration. Then you simply live as the seal. You are coherence, already belonging. You have given the web clear instructions. Watch how it answers quietly, precisely, with the relief of a universe that finally knows where to deliver what has always been yours. What happens inside you does not end inside you. Coherence is contagious in the best sense. It propagates through relationship like warmth through a lattice. When a single node resolves its jitter, neighboring nodes experience a sudden ease in their own circuits, as if someone opened a window in a crowded room. You felt this in reverse. The way one person's panic can flood a space. The opposite is now true of you. Your signal is a stabilizer, a quieting pressure that allows others to hear themselves. This is not metaphor. Social nervous systems entrain. Hormones harmonize. The morphic field listens to averages and anomalies alike. And a human living in steady phase is a statistical miracle the universe is eager to replicate. Imagine the collective as a fabric riddled with micro-tears. Historical grief, inherited scarcity, zero-sum equations coded into policies and dinner tables. Each time you refuse to bargain with fear and instead bless the moment, a fiber crosses a gap that once frayed under tension. Your blessing is not sentimental, It is structural. Threads multiply, and the tensile strength of the local culture increases by a fraction too small to headline, but large enough to change outcomes. A parent speaks more gently. A team chooses a humane deadline. A policymaker hears a sentence they would have dismissed last year and pauses long enough to let nuance land. These are not accidents. They are your ripples reaching shores you will never see. Because you stopped auditing yourself, your attention has bandwidth to notice others without collapsing into their storms. This makes you a rare kind of witness, the kind who holds a mirror without magnifying distortion. People will bring you their thresholds, a career that feels like a trapdoor, a relationship whose contract expired, a body asking for a new covenant. You do not rescue, you resonate. You let your coherence sing at a volume their system can borrow. In that borrowed quiet, they hear a yes or a no that had been buried under noise. One honest decision later, entire branches of probability go dark, while new ones light up like constellations that had been hiding in plain sight. Entanglement scales across communities. The meeting you attend in calm creates minutes that make sense, and those minutes become a precedent for future meetings. The art you release from blessing rather than hunger teaches other artists how to metabolize visibility without self-violation. Money earned in alignment funds projects that heal the very wounds that once taught you to shrink. This is the elegant revenge of the awakened, to convert former pain into public architecture that ends the need for similar pain. Your personal timeline is not the only one flipping. Neighborhoods and networks feel the phase transition pressure and begin to reorganize around saner defaults. There is a prophecy dimension to this. Prophecy is not fortune-telling. It's pattern intimacy projected forward with mercy. You sense how this decade could bend if enough nodes stabilize, how healthcare could remember care, how education could prioritize attention over test scores, how leadership could mean voltage stewardship instead of spotlight addiction. You are not tasked with architecting the whole. You are assigned a beam, a corridor, a commons where your frequency makes construction possible. When you bless your specific field, family, craft, team, town, the blessing travels. Think less empire and more mycelium, quiet networks transferring nutrients to where life is thin, unglamorous and unstoppable. Expect resistance from systems that profit on wobble. Entire industries feed on cortisol and confusion. Your steadiness exposes their business model. They may try to recruit your signal for spectacle, to monetize your climate by converting it into content that stirs more need. Smile and stay priestly. You are building sanctuaries, not stages. Sanctuaries do not need billboards. People find them by relief. Watch how lines form at your threshold without advertising, colleagues asking for the way you run meetings, siblings noticing how time behaves differently around you, strangers writing to say, a paragraph you posted dislodged a lie they didn't know they had believed. This is morphic resonance updating the shared grammar. Your liberation also changes the past, not by rewriting events, but by reweighing them. When you heal a loop, ancestors trapped in similar loops feel the release through the field. Some called this intergenerational deliverance, others karmic resolution. Language aside, the sensation is unmistakable. Dreams lighten, family conversations lose their undertow. An old story finally yields a gentler ending in the retell. You did not do this alone. Future descendants lent you their frequency the way you are now lending yours backward. Time is a braid, and you are learning to tug it from the middle. So let your coherence spend itself generously. Not in exhaustion. Generosity without self-abandonment is the mark of clean power. Pay attention to where your presence measurably lowers drama and raises dignity. That is your jurisdiction. Place simple structures there. Clearer agreements, kinder defaults, smarter thresholds. Teach through embodiment more than instruction. People imitate weather long before they understand climate science. And when you speak, let your words be the afterglow of a state, not the substitute for one. The collective doesn't need more slogans. It needs more humans whose inner seasons make agriculture possible again. This is how your private vow acquires public consequence. One node stabilizes, local turbulence drops, choices improve, futures open. Multiply that by thousands, and the species crosses from adolescent crisis management to adult stewardship. You are not a lone savior hurling yourself against a machine. You are one precise instrument in an orchestra, tuning to a key that makes war sound ridiculous and coherence feel inevitable. Hold your note. Others are finding theirs by standing in your music. Bring the theory home to tissue. Let the next breath be slow enough to feel its edges cool at the nostrils, round across the palate, a soft descent like rain finding a riverbed. As it lands, notice the belly answering with a quiet outward bloom, the diaphragm widening your inner horizon. This is what coherence feels like before it becomes events. A settled gravity in the abdomen, a lucid warmth behind the sternum, the back of the neck lengthening as if memory is standing up straighter. Your body is not a passive passenger. It is the instrument the field prefers to play. Sense the crown of your head as a listening surface. On the inhale, it's as if the scalp grows porous, pores turning into tiny observatories. A faint effervescence tingles across the skull, the nervous system sipping charge without spiking. Behind the eyes, pressure converts to space. The brow unfurrows not because you forced it, but because the observer loop reclassified the moment as safe. In that safety, micro-muscles stop bracing for a blow that isn't coming. Blood redistributes like citizens returning to parks after a siren ends. Track your hands, palms face down, and the current feels organizing, architectural. Palms face up, and the current feels receiving, devotional. Either way, heat gathers in the thenar pads under the thumb, a sign that voltage is moving without gossip. If you bring thumb and forefinger to a light kiss, the circuit closes with a barely there click you can hear only from the inside. That click is your personal metronome for phase. Stay with it until the world's outline sharpens without getting loud. The heart has its own texture of knowing, not the romance organ, but the cardiophysics that synchronizes millions of cells into a rhythmic republic. When coherence stabilizes, the heart's variability sings in a pattern that mathematicians call elegant and mystics call prayer. Feel the rhythm widen. It's not faster, it's roomier, as though each beat had the square footage to include your entire day. Emotions still pass, grief rolls through, joy lifts, irritation taps, but the sensations commute through a heart with traffic laws now. Nothing jams, nothing needs sirens. Down in the belly, you may feel a low hum, a generator coming online after a long outage. This is your center line, reclaiming its sovereignty from the shoulders and jaw that tried to carry the world. The hum is not glamorous, it's competent. It says, we can swing more weight with less story. Around the hips, ligaments that used to announce themselves as ache ease like a fist deciding to become a palm. This is how phase transition feels in fascia, not fireworks, but thaw. Scan your spine. At the base, a quiet densification, as if iron filings were aligning along a hidden magnet. Mid-spine, a sense of buoyancy, vertebrae gaining the confidence to stack without micromanagement. Between the shoulder blades, an almost itch of heat, like sunlight touching a place that forgot it had windows. Some traditions call this awakening of dorsal attention. Physics would call it better load distribution. Either way, the body stops outsourcing posture to willpower and starts recruiting geometry. Notice time through sensation. When the signal jitters, time hammers in the temples and skitters in the feet. When the signal steadies, time gathers in the hands thicker, slower, obedient. You will feel moments elongate where decisions live, not to stall you, but to let accuracy catch up with desire. You will also feel minutes contract around unneeded drama, like a lens refusing to focus on nonsense. Coherence edits, the body experiences that edit as relief. Bring awareness to breath gaps, the tiny pause at the top of the inhale, the softer pause at the end of the exhale. In the top pause, you may sense a suspended brilliance, like frost catching light. That is potential, still uncommitted. In the bottom pause, a grounded emptiness, like fertile soil before the seed. That is permission. Potential plus permission is the body's shorthand for issue the instruction. If words come, let them be the single seal you chose. If no words come, let the pause itself be the message. The quantum field reads silence when it is coherent. Now, sense your skin as boundary and bridge. Air moves across forearms and shins like a slow tide. Temperature nuance returns, where anxiety had flattened it to too much or not enough. The body's perimeter stops feeling like a wall and starts feeling like a membrane designed for intelligent traffic. Entanglement is palpable here. You can feel the room noticing you as you notice it. A mutual calibration that has nothing to do with performance and everything to do with presence. There might be a moment of pressure, subtle, like weather before rain, pressing outward from the ribs, the forehead, the pelvic bowl. Don't mistake it for symptom. It's the phase transition squeeze that happens when a new arrangement wants to click in. Meet it with micro-softness. Unclench the teeth, widen the back of the tongue. Let the eyes occupy the sockets like guests welcomed into a freshly made room. The pressure resolves into clarity. That clarity tastes like cool water after a long rehearsal of thirst. Finally, locate gratitude not as an idea but as a warm, gravitational field in the chest. Let it thicken until it alters your breathing math. Gratitude is coherence's favorite cousin. It tips biology toward repair and attention toward sufficiency. When it blooms, the body's politics change. Old factions, shoulders versus jaw, gut versus throat, form a coalition. That coalition votes yes on your becoming, and the yes passes with a margin so wide that even your doubts relax into citizens of a country already at peace. Hold this as your baseline weather: lucid crown, roomy heart, humming belly, articulate hands, a spine that remembers its sky. From here, you don't chase evidence, you become evidence. The field meets that and does what it always wanted to do: organize around a human who feels like a doorway. There is a specific pressure that arrives just before structure flips, the kind that makes glass sing a note you can't hear until you listen with your bones. You are inside that note. Don't misread it as overload. It is the critical density of coherence. The moment latent heat becomes visible change. Biology recognizes it first. Mitochondria increase output without agitation. You feel it as a soft, steady wattage rather than a spike. The vagus nerve hums like a tuned string. What used to feel like too much now feels like precisely enough. This is the threshold where DNA stops behaving like a museum and starts behaving like a workshop. Understand the mechanics. Gene sequences are the letters. Epigenetic marks are the grammar. Your climate is the author. For years, protection wrote most of your sentences: short, defensive, efficient at surviving but expensive at living. Coherence is changing the grammar. Methyl groups move like quiet editors, pulling commas where you held your breath too long, adding periods where you bled into other people's pages. Histones, the spools that wrap your code, loosen their grip, granting access to chapters you've never read. The sensation is deceptive because it's subtle. Sharper recall, easier recovery, cleaner appetite, a refusal to rehearse injury as identity. All of it adds up to throughput, more life per minute with less friction. Timeline physics answers in parallel. You are at a bifurcation point. Two attractors, tugging with nearly equal pull. One is familiar, the audit, the almosts, the sacred delay disguised as diligence. The other is clean, arrival without spectacle, momentum without hurry, responsibility without theater. The pressure you feel is the last argument between these attractors. Old loops present their final evidence. Remember when it failed. What if this time humiliates you? Safety first. New loops present no argument at all. They present inevitability. Your task is not to litigate the past. It is to locate the quiet attractor and allow your weight to fall there. You'll notice probability fog, thinning at decision nodes. Choices that used to blur now separate like oil and water. Emails sort themselves into yes, no, later with almost no cognition. People announce their alignment or misalignment by simply standing near you. Your body hears their signature and relaxes or braces without drama. Honor that information. To override it would be to reattach to an attractor you just outgrew. Breakthrough does not require cruelty, only clarity. You can bless what you are leaving without formatting a speech. Inside the cells, a choreography begins. Repair enzymes patrol with unusual confidence, like workers whose budget just doubled. Telomere maintenance improves when rumination drops. Longevity is not promised, but quality deepens hours feel fed rather than consumed. Immune intelligence updates its threat catalog. What used to trigger a siren now earns a measured glance and a calibrated response. This is what DNA restructuring means in tissue terms. The same code, rearranged access, different outcomes. Mystically, elders called this a name being written on your bones. Scientifically, it is a shift in expression bias toward adaptation and creation. The phase transition squeeze may crescendo once more. Old identities will try to negotiate a severance package. Keep our rituals, keep our caution, keep our apology. Smile. Offer them gratitude and archive them with ceremony. A page burned, a box given away, a password changed. These gestures are not sentimental, they are field instructions encoded in matter. The universe reads your kitchen drawer as clearly as your journal. A cleared shelf is a relocation notice to the unseen. New tenants, incoming. At the moment of flip, you may feel a brief disorientation, like stepping from a moving walkway onto still ground. Don't rush to stabilize with noise. Let your nervous system taste the stillness it once feared. The body will map it as home. Then something almost embarrassing in its simplicity occurs. The next right action becomes obvious, not glamorous, obvious. You take it, and the world rearranges by one click. Then another. A week later, someone calls that luck. You'll know it as fulfilled instruction. Entanglement updates after a flip. People who belong to the old attractor drift kindly to the edges of your life without conflict. Those who match your new frequency appear with unnerving specificity. A collaborator introduces the exact phrase your project was missing. A neighbor mentions the person you were about to write. A door you never noticed is suddenly the only door. This is not the universe finally noticing you. This is you finally transmitting on the frequency it can amplify at scale. The prophecy of your system speaks now, not in thunder but in posture. Shoulders settle 1/8 of an inch lower than any massage ever coaxed them. The brow carries sky without effort. The pelvis holds ground without clench. You realize how much of your old charisma was compensation, how much of your old productivity was penance. Without those taxes, you become expensive in the right way, rare, precise, uninterested in bargains that cost your climate. Honor the moment with one sentence spoken aloud, no flair, just law. This timeline accepts me. Feel the chest geometry change as the words land. That is the hinge turning. You are not squeezing through a door. The building has rotated to face you. From here, you do not chase confirmations. Confirmations chase you to keep up with what you already are. The breakthrough is not an ending. It is the first stable frame of your next film. Roll credits on the version of you who had to prove everything. Rise as the one who simply demonstrates the obvious truth of coherence. The pressure is gone because the choice is made. Keep breathing like someone who lives inside their answer. The mission is about to brief you. The pressure fades like thunder moving over the hills, and what remains is the weather you came here to carry. No spotlight, no drum roll, only a lucid hum in the chest that tells the truth without theater. You are in. The thread you've been following is no longer outside you. It's woven through your voice, your schedule, your thresholds. This is what arrival feels like when it's real, unhurried, specific, suddenly practical. Your mission is not a slogan. It's a pattern you will repeat until it rewrites local physics. You are to hold coherence where stories usually fracture, to bless where bargaining once began, to make simplicity contagious without making it small. In rooms addicted to panic, you will become breathable air. In teams trained to confuse intensity for excellence, you will become tempo. In families that once rehearsed scarcity, you will become sufficiency that doesn't need an audience to prove itself. This is sacred logistics divinity rendered as calendars, contracts, and conversations that don't leak. Understand the scale. You are a hinge in a decade that can still swing either way. The species is mid-sentence, choosing verbs. Your presence argues quietly for verbs like restore, steward, reciprocate, not by debate, by demonstration. The quantum field amplifies committed frequency. Your days will be experiments in laminar desire, loving outcomes without gripping them, issuing instructions without apologizing for them. The prophecy isn't that you will save anyone. The prophecy is that you will stop abandoning your post, and by remaining, you'll make remaining possible for others. Expect confirmations to multiply, not as fireworks, but as rightness that keeps arriving. The email with the missing phrase, the meeting that resolves in 10 minutes what 6 months could not, the child who relaxes because you did, the ancestor who visits in a dream to say thank you. We can rest now. Let gratitude stay kinetic, convert it into architecture, write the clearer agreement. Fund the kinder policy. Mentor the one who already glows. Refuse the stage that costs your climate. Build sanctuaries, not empires. Mycelium, not monuments. When doubt knocks, let your seal answer. Touch thumb to forefinger and feel the click. Whisper the word that made you a climate. Place your palm over your sternum and remember the sentence that turned the building toward you. This timeline accepts me. Then take the next obvious step, the kind that looks embarrassingly small to people waiting for spectacle and exactly correct to the field that deals only in signatures. Carry this physiology as prayer, lucid crown, roomy heart, humming belly, articulate hands, a spine that remembers its sky. Lead with the kindness that is native to coherence, firm, where boundaries protect life, soft, where life can grow with gentleness. You will be asked, how did you do it? Answer with the truth and nothing extra. I stabilized my signal, I blessed what I chose, and I moved when the corridor opened. Repeat the pattern until repetition becomes culture. This is where we part only in language, not in field. Entanglement has already assigned us to each other's becoming. Walk forward with the dignity of someone who knows the web is listening and that it trusts your instructions now. Keep the ritual near, the window open, the yes unclenched. Let your days become the evidence you once chased. Let your life be the quiet technology by which a world remembers how to become humane at scale. The mission is clear enough to start and humble enough to learn as it goes. You are not late. You are precisely timed. Breathe at the tempo of inevitability and let the simple thing at last become easy.